This is an emergency. In 1985, in the most northerly metropolis in North America, a roller coaster opened that really set a precedent unseen previously in the nation of which it was opened. And this roller coaster was, of course, called Mindbender, opening in West Edmonton Mall of that year. And now, as of only recently, it has been announced that Mindbender will close. It has possibly been the most shocking announcement in this early part of 2023 in the enthusiast community. However, it is possibly the most devastating announcement in the coaster enthusiast community in Canada, as it signals the end of the thrill period of roller coasters in this country, at least at the level of it being competitive amongst parks within it. So sadly, here we are, I being one of these enthusiasts that feels devastated at the announcement of the loss of Mindbender. But that's not what this video is about today. This video is actually more of a recap of many things from this past year and beyond, including that visit to Edmonton, of which I didn't get to ride Mindbender, of which is the reason that I open this particular live stream. Now, there has been a lot of other news that's come down the wire in the last couple of months because I haven't done one of these in some time. Uh, and the attendances or the attendance of this feed currently, although I've jumped around in the time frame quite a lot in scheduling it, um, indicates why that is, probably. But also in the sense that the future of the channel, which is maybe one of the first things I should discuss, is going to go in a different direction, and you're not really going to see these live feeds at all on the channel. Primarily, they will just be sort of introduced at certain benchmarks of the channel. If they get hit, then that's what happens. Or if there's an extreme news event that I just need to discuss, then I obviously will do a feed. But the channel is now going to focus more on the films that we now, thankfully, due to our travel, be able to put together, since we've now accumulated a lot of footage from all the travels of the past year and beyond, which we're absolutely thankful for, and we'll be continuing on through the next season. But then there's going to be a sort of a wrap up of that because I'll unfortunately have hit a lot of the parks that I've always wanted to visit after that point. So, yeah, the channel will definitely evolve after its fifth year, which will be that point, into something a little bit different, I feel. As I said, probably even last year, less vlog specific. I'm not a Wonderland vlogger. That's one thing I've definitely learned from the experience of the last couple of years is that I definitely want to focus more on the industry worldwide and more from my perspective and sort of age group maybe, but also from the experience of someone who's ridden some classic rides of the past back when being an enthusiast was barely a mentionable thing. But now here we are. The channel will evolve a bit this season as we see new videos coming in the future uh, in the film realm. And as you've seen, and possibly have seen, if you haven't already, the new Reprofile series starting with the tragic events at La Ronde over the years, the period of the 70s. Uh, so definitely check that out. And that theme will continue very shortly as a companion piece is going to come up. Hello, B-Man. Yes, the time has jumped around all over for this live feed. And it won't be up for too long, too. It's kind of rushed because it is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to everyone who's watching this post and pre or whatever. Um, but yes, so yeah, History of Laurent will continue. And then there will be some interesting videos coming down the pipeline before my next trip, which will be out to the West Coast in March, which I'm definitely looking forward to, and hitting some parks that I've never been to before, chiefly Disneyland and California Adventure and Knott's Berry Farm, which is probably one of the biggest ones that I'm looking forward to. Unfortunately, some of those rides are down at Magic Mountain and Knott's Berry Farm, so definitely look forward possibly to another trip to those parks after they kind of work out the kinks with some of the rides in those parks. Because of that, I've decided not to go to San Diego as it's has yet to open, or at least at SeaWorld, their new roller coaster by the time that I'm going to be there. Um, basing on the comments, yes, from B Man as well, I'm going to take the mantle about the recent trip to Niagara and look forward to another video about that, because I've actually just finished the script on that, as it's a little bit more of a expose on why in the world would you walk through Niagara Falls in the wintertime. And arguably, it's a good time to go to Niagara Falls in wintertime because it's extremely affordable and it is not too crowded, which is, for me, a very desirable aspect of visiting. And I do have to get to Carnival Chaos because it surprisingly has opened with very little fanfare. The website hasn't even announced that. So I think that they're waiting to have a official grand opening for that ride sometime around the spring, despite it actually being up and running. So I'm going to communicate with the office. They've actually been pretty decent with communication with the channel. So because the fact that they have opened, we'll see if we can try to get down there for any official opening that they have, which is actually a note that I should write down right now, because I did not think to close that loop with the Falls group. Um, and as far as the Carnival of Lights, or Niagara Festival of Lights, or NFOTL, or I believe it is called FL, yeah, whatever, nodal. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Besides the point, I didn't find it too bad, actually. It was my first time visiting, so in comparison to other sort of hybrid publicly run events, I found it not terrible. It didn't have an admission price, but yes, compared to some things that even I've seen this season, definitely not amongst the most outstanding, that's for sure. Um, and yeah, definitely get a car when you do that, because going through the islands area, it's not designed to go on foot. So I would definitely recommend going by car. And yeah, the rest of the displays were a little bit, run of the mill, I would say, and dated in certain areas, in a lot of areas. Let's not kid ourselves. So, yeah, I definitely, if you're going there, it's kind of like a decent add-on or additional thing to do if you happen to be in the area at that time. But I would definitely not plan an entire trip around it. That's for sure. And it's barely figures in this video that I've just mentioned as far as reasons to go to Niagara Falls in the wintertime. But the video is there for itself for you to make your call on that. That's for sure. Um, in addition to travel, I guess we should probably continue on that note as far as what's planned for the channel. As I think I missed that, yeah, I'm not going to San Diego, but I will be going to Magic Mountain, Knott's Berry Farm, the Disney parks out there in LA, along with some parks or the small offering that is available in Vegas as well for a short period that I'll be visiting there. Beyond that, well, I'll just make the first mention of it because even though it is pretty much set in stone, and as I mentioned prior to this, I'll have, I'll have sort of ticked off a lot of my bucket list parks by the end of this coming year or this year or this coming season. I have a very fair, I'd say, the most mammoth trip ever planned for the channel, and that is going to go through the entire Midwestern United States. And I believe, as of time of planning, it is around 19 parks in 14 days, I believe is how it works out, or 13 days possibly. It's even crazier than that. Yeah, it's going to be a wild one. I'm planning on hitting just to highlight the places. Most parks that I'm going to be hitting on this trip are going to be first time parks that have long been commented on in the channel as places that I should visit and get to. So, yes, I'm going to finally get to places like Silver Dollar City, Dollywood, Six Flags St. Louis, Indiana Beach. There's Six Flags over Georgia, which I'm sure is going to be a very interesting vlog. I think that I'm personally hyping that up as being the most challenging vlog I possibly will do. But besides the point, there's other smaller parks peppered in between there if you can figure out the route. Definitely going to Worlds of Fun as well to check out their new Zambezi Zinger coaster. And then there's the final leg will go up the eastern seaboard. So we will cover a lot of new attractions hitting that area, in addition to parks that we haven't been to in a while at the start of the channel, like Carowinds, and then hitting King's Dominion once again, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, going to, of course, go to Hershey Park, Six Flags America, and possibly Knoebels. We'll see how things work out because that region seems to have some interesting announcements coming for the next season, especially with Dorney Park's recent announcement. And long overdue for that park, I would say. Definitely excited to see a new coaster. Even though that dive coaster that's popping up at Dorney doesn't look too exciting layout wise, as far as the speculation is concerned, if it is in fact going to be a dive coaster. But they desperately need. It would be interesting to see that park with a third B&M, making it very similar to Cedar Point and Wonderland and Carowinds in that regard. Well, Carowinds doesn't have a third B&M. Yes, of course it does. Yeah, so it will make it more homogenous with the park or the chain overall, as far as that offering is concerned. So who knows? It might be a great little ride. The new dive coaster down at Fiesta, Texas seems to be getting some good word of mouth. So this new ride at Dorney will probably be pretty decent. But regardless, they need it. It's sad that they don't use the terrain of that is a hilly park that's yeah, could possibly have a very interesting sort of dive setup, but it wouldn't really work because of the side of the park where the hill is and that. So I guess that's beyond the point. And that is the trip planned, at least for the first half of the season. So it should be pretty interesting to see. I'm definitely excited about Wildcats Revenge, as it is I don't know. I think it's going to be a sleeper hit amongst the RMCs out there. It looks like a little mini Zadra. I definitely think it might get up there as far as comparisons with Iron Gwazi. I think it's going to give Steel Vengeance a run for its money for some people. I think, as far as best RMC out there, I'm just going to throw it out there now. I just like that layout. It looks like the speed that carries through it is going to be its benefit, and that is with the adjusted POV speed video that's out there too. So yeah, Wildcats Revenge is getting up there as far as my most anticipated roller coaster of the coming season. But I'm definitely looking forward to. These trips are often now built around what could potentially be closing in the next couple of years. So that's why Silver Dollar City and the timing of this trip will make sense. As you know, Fire in the Hole has just been recently announced as closing, and I definitely want to get on that ride before it's too late. a la the introduction of this video with Mindbender closing and not uh, being able to get to that park. Or I got to that park, but didn't get onto that roller coaster in time, unfortunately. B-Man asks the big question about whether or not the history of Wonderland will continue and cover the 2010s. Well, I won't really say stay tuned and watch this space. I'll just say yes, of course it is, and it is. The videos are a big undertaking because despite any typos that may get translated in the narration, sadly, long notice after the fact. Uh, yeah, I'm not going to go into how many hours of work go into those videos, but it's a lot of information. It takes a lot of time to put together, and then also to put it together in a package that is hopefully as entertaining as I feel it comes across with how it's all put together. And for that one being probably the last one, it has to be the last video in the series, at least for 7 odd years. Yeah, it'll be. I'm looking at it being as effective and big, let's say, as the first in the series as well. Although look for some companions because the overall coverage of that series is not done. Because if you will know, there's a couple of big rides and attractions that haven't been covered in that particular overlook of the park through those videos. So yeah, there's at least three more of those coming as well. And yes, thank you, and I do appreciate any likes, any shares, of course, of that content that you guys do put on. It's absolutely appreciated because in nature of this channel, I've not been aggressive in advertising it. I'm not really, bombarding. I don't believe in merchandise. I have a certain philosophy that I'm taking with this content, and it is that if you aren't making it because you enjoy it, then you shouldn't be. So that's where we stand, and that's why the videos come out not daily, but they come out when they're ready. So in regards to the 2010 Wonderland video, to wrap up on that, it will be with you very soon. And when exactly, all I'll say is that it will definitely be there by the time the season starts this year. But it's a good segue because of the Wonderland thing. I do have another video coming as far in a new series, let's say, and many other channels do this, but it's going to be a first, at least for this one, is a look at individual parks and reviewing those parks since I've visited so many in the last couple of years now. So a pretty in-depth one's coming on the Wonderland experience of the last couple of years, or especially the last decade, let's say, because it hasn't been. Let's not kid ourselves. Positive, and it has really transmorphed into a very different experience from what it was in the opening year, of which anyone that knows, I was actually there as a very, very small child. So I don't really remember anything, obviously. But yeah, I definitely feel it's time to discuss the park, not while actually enjoying the park in a vlog. So there's a big sort of sum up of what I feel about Wonderland in my home park in the last couple of years. I've had some great experiences. In fact, the last time I was at the park was among probably one of the best that I've ever had. But before that and prior to that, I've definitely had some of the worst experiences that I've had at the park. And going through so many different theme parks around the world, even in the last couple of years, uh, it leads to a larger perspective of what these parks can offer, what the crowds can offer with their own behavior. Let's say what kind of value you can get, what's the food like, what are the experiences and attractions, and like how well are they kept up. There's a lot that goes into these places, obviously, and I feel that some places are just doing them remarkably better and surprisingly more are better than others. And while I thought that Wonderland was among the best when I first put a top 10 theme park video out, which definitely watch the one that I have up now if you are interested, because it's coming down very soon, because it is certainly not accurate anymore. Uh, this is not Memorex. Definitely, we're in a caught in a loop though with the Wonderland topic. Um, that's the deal. So yeah, I'm gonna be putting a new one of those theme park review overall videos up, but I don't feel it's appropriate to do so until after this big USA tour that I mentioned earlier. Once that's done, then I think I'll be ready to finally put together a top theme park video and top coaster video. So I'll be revising both of those and also pulling down the ones that are currently up forever. Because, yeah, I feel like they definitely don't represent my perspectives on that anymore. Like, especially since I have a new number one coaster uh, af- after or only 4 months ago that I get to ride that. So, uh, Mindbender was addressed at the very beginning of this video, indeed, JB, for about 5 minutes worth of discussion, as a matter of fact. Because, yeah, there's a lot to discuss on that. And just to quickly loop back on that, massively disappointed, as I don't think I actually said it as far as in regards to the announcement. Uh, it just doesn't seem like the right move. It's really a horrible move for the Canadian enthusiast community in the sense that we've lost a huge coaster in our arsenal, but it now compromises a, a, a direction that I see a lot of parks going for, not only in Canada but in many other places where family driven or family focused arsenal of rides and experiences is now favored over more thrills and more adult types of experiences. Now, I think that that's really just an overall reflection on how the crowds have acted in relation to those that come looking for bigger thrills. Because you get, everyone knows what I'm trying to say at this point. And if you focus on families, you're just going to get less trouble. You're not getting the same trouble and security level at Sesame Street Village as you are at, say, Canada's Wonderland, and there's a reason for that. So, yeah, it's a disturbing trend, especially because Galaxyland I really rated very highly. I thought it was one of the best indoor parks I've visited, or at least surprisingly so. And with a better thrill offering, although they still had some great rides there. The SNS Shot Tower was probably one of the best that I've been on as far as I was concerned. So yeah, it is really tragic. I don't think that Mindbender is going to be saved. I want to say otherwise, but I just don't feel that it's going to happen. That's a tricky one to move. Yes, those Schwarzkopfs are kind of built the same as far as their portability versus the permanent installations. But at the same time, the update and try to get a new fabrication company involved to maybe fix the ride if it needs it because it's just gotten too rough over the years. It's obviously got a complicated history as far as the accident, even though it was so long ago. Yes, Chimera has been saved, but it's been running as long as Mindbender, but it's was a traveling ride, and I think it has a little bit more flexibility as far as how it can run uh, in that nature. And there's been some tinkering with Mindbender over the years, so it's a finicky ride, I believe, and that's why they've decided to close it. So I can hammer on a long time about Mindbender, and I should, but I have to still re-emphasize that it's very scary for the Canadian enthusiast landscape as we lose a very typical or archetypal ride in the history of what we've had. Um, Yes, Dragon Mountain is older than Mindbender, as a matter of fact, because it's either 83, I believe, Dragon Mountain was opened. I'm pretty sure it's 83. Either way, it definitely is 84, 83. And it's definitely under threat too. Uh, yeah, it seems like the Aero coasters are easier to maintain over time, at least from the come in comparison to Schwarzkopf models. It's tragic. I don't know what they're going to do if somebody does potentially come in and buy it. That I don't think that we're going to be able to ride it conveniently. It may get shipped to a far flung location. There's plenty of indoor malls of a grand scale. Um, on the other side of the planet and stuff like that. So it may go a fair distance and it may just continue the tradition of the other famous Schwarzkopf in Canada, doppellooping and be sold and just disappear. So who knows? Either way, I know that Galaxyland does not plan on installing anything near iconic as Mindbender in its place. So yeah, it sounds like it's going to go a pretty hokey route. It's a massive space, but I don't think it's going to be filled with rides of any uh, decent level of what Mindbender was. It's a legendary coaster, and it's very sad to be losing it. Yeah, and I think that's Mindbender wrapped up. Uh, Outside of that, and other questions that you guys may have in the surprise video that we have here. Uh, there's been a lot of trips recently. In fact, I even went to a major bucket list park and didn't do a vlog at it, which is Europa Park. Um, and sadly, that one will have to be delayed by probably 2 years, as I probably won't be going back to that park um, until it opens the Tesla themed coaster in 2024. Um, I'm just reading a comment about doppel looping. I think every time I was actually having a conversation about that particular ride just recently with my boss and my other. I'm a boss. I'm my own boss here, but my boss in my real life. And yeah, we were just nostalgically talking about that ride. And yeah, it'd be great to find where it's gone. Although now it's sad. Who knows? Maybe this fabricator, I don't think it's possible because they seem to be focusing on aerodynamics coasters. But if you're following the refabrication of track for Blackpool Pleasure Beach's big one, there's a company in the UK that's now offering the services of, repro or not really reprofiling these rides, but basically rebuilding these rides, and reprofiling and fabricating certain sections of track of that ride. And now they're offering those services globally. And apparently, it's a booming business, and you should see some new announcements on stuff that they're doing there. So maybe they'll extend that to Schwarzkopf models. It would be nice, but the only reason why I don't think that would work is they don't have that many Schwarzkopfs, if any, left really in the UK, so that any sort of local parks would contract them out for that kind of work, of which they would develop the tech in order to make it work. Um, do I feel it's better or worse now than it was when Conklin ran it? Well, I guess like Conklin in a way still run it, but not like it's basically they were bought out and Conklin was dissolved. But interestingly enough, apparently I know the relation of a gentleman that used to run the CNE for the better part of 20 to 30 years. So look forward to an interesting video, hopefully, about that subject in the level of the history of Canada's Wonderland, covering the CNE if the communication on that level works out. because yeah, I'm definitely looking at a project on that. It's another big sort of thing that I'm doing for the channel, obviously with Ontario Place looped in with that as well, since I obviously have many childhood experiences at those parks or those places and attractions. Um, I definitely like the CNE the last visit. I would say I had a great time. I'm not going to be going this coming season, though. I will say that after experiencing the full ride complement, I think it's the offering is good and it's great at a flat ride level. They're just missing key things that they're missing are haunted houses. There's barely any. There used to be like half a dozen at that fair. Roller coasters. There now you have a Galaxy as the biggest thrill offering and a spinning Wow Mouse, and that's pretty much it. And they used to always have a minimum of four, I believe. So yeah, that is underwhelming. So they need to figure that out. And there's just not that many traveling roller coasters of a big size in North America anymore, which sucks because in Germany they still have those going. Um, yes, and now you're just feeding me these morsels of things I could comment on. So I will carry on and cover that too, because yeah, uh, yes, the shuttle loop was the Schwarzkopf that is locally here that hopefully will reopen. That most of us, I think, are skeptical of Niagara Amusement Park, which is something I have to cover in this video. So that's a good reminder. But on the CNE level, yes, those are the attractions that I think are missing as far as the rides are concerned. The haunted houses, especially. The one that they have now is an embarrassment, as is the fun houses. Every single one of them, it's actually an abhorrent, if I could say the word, an abhorrent experience. If I was paying individually for some of those fun houses, I'd be insulted uh, and I'd be really, really trying to get my money back because, yeah, they're not good. Um, yeah, the Blitzer I found it wasn't. Now they've taken it out. Yeah, the Blitzer wasn't even there last year, and that was a big omission as well. So you really had one roller coaster. And I hope they figured that out, is there's still a lot of massive, yeah, they also had that chance they also had a chance toboggan, as well as JB has listed some of the old coasters there. At least that's one I got to go on as well. Um, and I have been on the Flyer and obviously Doppel looping and Mark One, obviously in the Wild Mouse. They used to also have a powered mine train as well, a Mac powered train. That so there was a time that they had possibly five roller coasters, if not six, as part of the arsenal at the CNE. Um, and yes, they also had the Wildcat too. So it's like it's really kind of underwhelming as far as the previous years. Absolutely, the Chum Wildcat. The it's kind of a, it's kind of horrible to be honest. Even the old I'm not going to remember the name of it now. But the old carousel, but the one that sort of the derby style that Cedar Point still has was a fantastic attraction. It was very fast. They had great mazes. So getting back to the point and the question, do I think it's the same? Even from the nostalgia of childhood, no. It was way better back in the day, but we're in a different world where the focus on those attractions and how they're laid out is just different now. Even though segueing back to this family focused trend that seems that most parks and amusement offerings are getting towards because of troubles, maybe yeah, the actual creativity and breadth of offering as far as attractions is concerned is just not the same level at all, which is a sad thing for kids as well as for those of us that want to at least have somewhere close to the same experience. Um, Yeah, the Mach 3 is gone. Basically, there's no point in going to the fair as an adult there or the CNE, I'd say. But at the same time, like I said, I won't be going next year unless they announce a major new arsenal of attractions, which is certainly not going to be the case. Uh, I think the exception is if they just miraculously reintroduce doppel looping, and if that happens, then yeah, you'll see me there on opening day for sure. Which that's obviously not going to happen. So um, there was an earlier subject about Niagara Amusement Park. Yes, as far as that's concerned, it's going to be very. I'm actually very excited to cover the opening of that park, and as it stands, I should be there. It probably will be. Yeah, it's going to be interesting in the sense that I don't think the Schwarzkopf is opening. That's for sure. They haven't made any reference to it whatsoever in the announcement of the attractions that are expected to open next year or this coming season. Sorry. Uh, the I just don't know. It's the biggest point of contention for those people that have watched that video that know stuff about these things, about whether or not it's going to open or not. I admire the ambition of the park. That's kind of what we want, and the Staples Group. That's what we want from them, and that's why we sing their praises. Is that they at least try, and if they can't, I think by trying and also getting back to thank you, JB, about the Niagara Amusement Park videos. It's time for another one for sure. I'm looking forward to getting back. There, I have. There was a tragic circumstance in filming one of those that probably will reference at another point. Maybe that will be the video for the next live or reference to the next live. But yeah, it's. I think it's important that they try to get that ride up and running because it will set a precedent for other rides, like Mindbender, whatever, what have you. And the fact that if they find a company that can take on that project and save it, then other Schwarzkopfs could possibly be saved by virtue of their work. So we certainly want to see them try. Don't think it's going to open this year. Will it ever open? I think that next year is the important year for that shuttle loop. Because if it doesn't open by then, I think that we can pretty much count it out that it won't be. It'll just be sitting out there exposed to the elements. And yeah, that's not good for any coaster, especially one of its age. So I don't know. It will all eyes will be on it. That's for sure. And watching or having ridden the one in Wallaby, Belgium, and finding out that it's not actually the original tech Schwarzkopf launch hydraulic launch system that's on that ride now, it doesn't bode well for the future of that particular attraction. But looking forward to Pinfari Dark Ride. Looking forward to getting back on Silver Comet. Looking forward to pretty much all of the attractions that they have announced, at least the adult side that they have planned for the park because it definitely needs it. The park looks beautiful. I will say it definitely is kind of shocking how much that park has recovered from what we all know was a very, very terrible state due to vandalism over the years that it was closed. Um, I have considered doing a thing about Maple Leaf Village because, yeah, I have visited it over the years in Niagara Falls. For those of you that don't know what Maple Leaf Village is, it was one of the original Niagara Falls theme park attractions, and it's a curious one. Uh, Watch this space, I guess, is the term for that. I wouldn't say that it'll probably hit this year, sadly, if all the other videos that I have planned come down the pipeline in the year, because there is about 12 of them planned, and the Lake Dolphin Laurent video is the first of those. So, but I iconically remember the Huss Rainbow there at Maple Leaf Village, um, and all that that it had to offer. But it was such a hard recollection as far as my experience there, since I was very, very small at that time. I just remember you could. I really want to get up that tower. That's the thing. If anybody knows the history of Niagara Falls, and that the tower at the foot of the falls is originally was built for Maple Leaf Village. And then it was used as a casino for VIPs when the casino first opened at the base of it. And now it's not used at all. So it would be certainly fascinating to get inside there if possible. Uh, the Yeah, I want to try to see if they do any tours of it still, even if like privately. That's the thing I'm trying to organize. So yeah, there has been a lot of thoughts on that. As far as Kevin's question is concerned, my favorite, to completely go back again to a different subject that I just covered, Europe trip, favorite park. Have not thought about it until now, but unfortunately, um, it wasn't part of the Europe trip vlogs in the first series, and then when I went back for my honeymoon, the one park that I fitted in mainly the biggest park was Europa Park, which has to be my favorite park that I've experienced. I think it just beat Phantasialand, which was my favorite. But yeah, Europa Park is something else, and it's an experience unlike anything else that I've seen at a theme park level. And that includes the perspective of my partner, who is dedicated to Disneyland or Disney World up until that point and that visit. Um, just reading some of the comments as well, as we're speaking about the shuttle loop here still. Yes, the tower is probably due to be demolished, which it should. Obviously, it's quite an older structure. Um, yeah, and then the other comments that I wanted to make about the trips. Um, I've covered Europa Park, and sadly, I did not get. I got a little bit of coverage when I was there, but essentially, didn't have enough time to dedicate a full experience of Rulantica and Europa Park and vlog. Uh, One thing I did think about before this video was just started that I wanted to mention is that any of these parks that I visit again, you're going to see a little bit more focus. I've been running around trying to just get the credits and freaking out about getting footage to cover a decent vlog. Now, having covered, say, some of the family credits and stuff of parks that I visited, I don't have to worry about say getting, a kid's credit coaster. So I can focus. The long story short is that I can focus on some of the photography and the videography going forward. So that's going to be the focus of the vlogs, and you're going to see a change in the style because of that. um, but yeah, we are touching on a point in some of these discussions about marine land, and I think that's a thing I should discuss as well. And maybe the last thing that I can cover, at least at a level outside of any questions. Um, yes, there's a massive marine land documentary planned. In fact, it'll probably be the most. The, I think that the Laurent project is, for, as far as a research level, is the largest project. Um, and as I said, yeah, the fourth part of that is actually coming next, and it's quite extensive. It doesn't even cover up until the present day, but it definitely covers a significant period in the park's history. In fact, 17 years of the park's history. Once that's done, and then the Wonderland series is done, then there's going to be a video about the history of Marineland, and that will be all encompassing of its opening up until the present day, as it's definitely a big point of discussion recently, and something that I haven't discussed in any of these videos. Uh, Neither the recent settlement with the most known of protester of the park, and also the recent indication publicly that the park is looking for a new owner operator. Oh, I wish I had the money to take it over, that's for sure. But unfortunately, yeah, I don't. So, but I also don't know whether or not I want to take that project on because of how sensitive it is, as for reasons that we all know. So it's a difficult one. Uh, we have obviously a lot of dream scenarios of potential owners that could come and change that park, but the problematic aspect of it is the animals that are still residing there and have to, and due to the recent changes of laws, and every time that the park does manage to take these animals to other locations that are allowed to be transferred, tragic situations happen, which sort of re-emphasizes the reason why where their home is now and where they're acclimatized to is important that they kind of stay there. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I think that really the problem with marine land, because if someone's going to invest in that area, uh, it's going to take a substantial amount of investment to the level of almost building an entire new theme park. Personally, I think that a natural phase out introduction, my original future series video on the future of the park, I agree with a lot of the choices that I made in that video, even though with some of those videos, I've moved in different directions on some of the things that I would do with some of these parks. And another segue, I have 4 more of those videos coming up and another mini series to land probably in the early part of March, so not too far from now. Uh, but yeah, marine land's difficult. I think that what it really needs, though, if someone was really intrepid enough or an investor was intrepid enough, is a nice sort of mid-range coaster investment and a ground up wood coaster would probably be the one that I would look at. There's just more than enough space to put one in. The park needs sort of like a focused refresh and something to distract potential visitors away from the dark sort of period of the recent past. Um, so, yeah, I think that that's kind of the move because a wood coaster is not the most expensive in the world, especially at a mid-sized range. Um, and yeah, I think the most complicated aspect of introducing such a ride would be the maintenance of it and whether or not you'd have to hire a new maintenance team that sort of has an expertise in wood constructions. I don't think so, especially because Marineland has no shortage of employees and maintenance employees and grounds employees. Anyone that's been to the park would probably know this because the most common sight there is a John Deere four wheeler with a couple of employees on it. So yeah, it's definitely uh, yeah, that would be the thing I would do, because I think that gradually over time, I would focus on certain areas and refresh them, kinda how, like, a lot of successful theme parks that are revamping themselves do now is to focus on certain areas. But at Marineland, you could essentially create an entire new themed area, have that as your big attraction, and then focus on the other areas to give a refresh as you evolve it into the future. So, um yeah, at the end of the day, I hope somebody comes in and tries to save the park. It's really sad visiting it of recent years. I'm not going to lie because it just seems like it's, it's hanging on the fringes, and whether or not it will return to its full glory of the past, I would certainly be surprised. Uh, I think that, yeah, and as far as, I should have said about the space and as far as the acreage is concerned, I certainly think that you could easily any potential buyer of the space could buy all of that property off of their hands. I don't think that a full land transfer is gonna occur. I think you're gonna see a division of land, and I think you're gonna see a section of it get sold off for development, especially as Ontario has this, housing, build, mandate over the next 10 years that's compromising green space and stuff like that. So Can't really hold on to 1,000 acres in a prime piece of real estate in the Golden Horseshoe for that much longer if they're looking to build new subdivisions. So I think that you're going to see at least half of that area turn into housing, which is a good thing at the end of the day because that's potentially more people that could go to Marineland at the end of the day, right? So you kind of do want that to happen. Uh, and even with half the size of land that they have, that's still bigger than Wonderland in retrospect. So, yeah, they can do it. It's not an issue. Um, I think that, a revamp of Dragon Mountain would definitely be nice if they could at least confidently extend the life of that roller coaster for an amount of years where that would make sense. Then adding some effects to that ride and stuff would definitely now the things that they wanted to do with that ride back in the day are a lot cheaper today, so they could certainly look at that again if the money was there, which it certainly isn't now, unfortunately. Um, I'm just reading some more comments here just to see what's being covered because, yeah, we've had some good subjects here as well. Yes, and, what I wanna touch as well about N Niagara region, if you visit and you know, anything about it, it's not exactly the most booming area right now, I will say. The real estate is not exactly super expensive, but, it also, yeah, it's still looking for its resurgence outside of its a primary focus, which is tourism. That's what the heartbeat of the town is, and the old town is not actually anywhere near the falls itself. So like there's a lot of regeneration that's still required in that section of the town. Um, and the area that we're talking about, Marineland, is on the opposite end of that area. So uh, yeah, are they gonna build a lot of houses there? Uh, yeah, it's I I don't know. It's difficult. It's hard, but like I said, when a government has a mandate to build things, they just kind of will build eh, things sometimes without the foresight of potential white elephants or otherwise. So who knows? It's hard to ascertain. There needs to be some more investment in Niagara at an infrastructure level for sure in order to attract businesses back to the area. Because yeah, it is hang on. We don't want to see it go the way of, say, the Niagara Falls on the other side of the river, which sadly is struggling to the point of, um, yeah, it's just not it's not the greatest of visits currently. I'll just say that, and that's nothing to take away from them. They're trying their best, but yeah, there's just not the money there to make that area look as attractive as it say could potentially be as a tourist destination. It's definitely an in and out in the Niagara Falls, New York side, that's for sure. But that all said, I definitely think I'll be doing a video where I walk across the border into that side of the Niagara experience because, yeah, I think that would be an interesting one to do. So tell me right now, otherwise, if that's a silly idea, but I certainly don't think that is the case. Um, I'm trying to figure out what coaster they're talking about in this chat. Um, as they're mentioning the vampire roller coaster, which I don't think it's Drayton Manor's vampire they're discussing. Uh, one other thing I'll segue though is that at the midpoint of the year, I generally avoid the parks as much as I can because that's when it gets a little out of hand. Um, but at the end of the season, that's when I start to travel again. And of course, this will probably be the last sort of fall season that I travel. As I will briefly hint, I'm planning on doing a ski attraction of my own, that the undertaking of which I don't think is really possible this year, but possibly next year. So I'm going to go to some parks in the seasons as usual. But I don't know what's going to happen closer to Halloween period yet. I definitely had some great experiences. Definitely had some really poor ones. Um, I'd say overall I had great experiences in North America. In Europe, they were hit and miss, but then again, the best scare maze attractions attraction overall that I've ever experienced was in the UK. So, and it's going to be hard to match that. But we need to get to Florida, obviously, and get on Iron Gwazi and obviously Icebreaker and the SeaWorld's other new coaster. In addition to the Disney World offerings too, which, Tron I've been on in Shanghai, so I'm not too eager to get down there to ride it because I'm just underwhelmed. I was underwhelmed by the ride overall, anyway. So I don't really think it's anything that I desperately looking to get onto anytime soon. I'm more looking forward to Guardians than Tron, that's for sure. But then again, going to Disneyland soon, so there are some things I want to get on there, mainly Splash Mountain and stuff. So that's gonna content that's Disney related is coming very soon. Um, as far as this is probably going to have to wrap things up soon. I'm trying to think still about what coaster we're talking about in this chat. But as far as that, yeah, videos coming up. I think I've covered everything. Sorry. Yeah, I was trying to get back to the trip that I'm planning at the end of the summer. And that will involve focus on the eastern side of Canada. So I'm really trying to get, as now with Mindbender gone, I'm trying to make sure that I get all of my coasters in my home country off of my list to get on my credit list at least before say it's too late. Um, the Yeah, it's going to be a challenge to sort of get to some of the PEI parks, and there's really only some small parks that I'm going to be hitting on that trip. But you should see a lot more of these videos focusing on tours of the cities that are sort of more far-reaching in my area, as they've also been popular. So you're going to see St. John, Charlottetown, Halifax, that kind of thing leading up to leaving that region and going back to Europe, which I'm going to be going to Spain. Yeah, I was just recently in Spain on my recent trip, but and did visit Tibidabo in Barcelona, but didn't actually ride any of the rides. That terrain coaster looks incredible, but I fully well knew that I was going to be back on this trip, so I will be going firstly to Madrid to Warner Brothers Movie World to ride the Dark Knight coaster. I believe that's what it's called now. Um, it looks incredible. That new Vekoma coaster. It's rumored to be one of the best of the coming year. So yeah, we'll be doing the park attractions and also Movie World, then going back, of course, to do Portaventura and Tibidabo in Barcelona, then moving up. We're gonna try to do Wallaby Rhone Alps. I've had some interesting experiences with Wallaby in the recent year, but either way, I'm gonna try to go to that park and ride their Gerstaller that they have there, which it looks pretty good. Um, and then finally, of course, we're going to go to Paris and we're going to ride to Tatis and get to Park Asterix for the first time. And of course, do Disneyland Paris as well. Parc d'Attractions or Parc d'Acclimatation, sorry, in Paris is actually the next vlog to come on the channel, as we already shot one there when we visited just this past winter or holiday season. Missed 2 credits at the park, unfortunately, so, if I'm out there and the time permits, I may cover those again in a separate video at that time. Um, and then, after that, there will be a brief jaunt, because the way it actually works out, I didn't do it in order. We're definitely going to Chessington and Thorpe Park, in the same day and the same period, to check out at least Chessington's new coaster and the new version of Darren Brown's Ghost Train, which, of course, was one of the rides that I didn't ride when I was there just this past season, and now it's gonna be a completely different offering this year. We're on the fence. I don't think that we'll be going to Alton Towers or anywhere else in the UK, as it seems that it makes more sense to go to the park, even though they have a new haunted house opening or a new version of their haunted house opening this coming season. Uh, yeah, there's just a lot going on in 2024 in the UK that makes more sense to spend more time there in a separate trip there if time and a grace of everything working out permits that we can do so. Um, in addition to the Europe trip to wrap that one up, that is planned. There will be a short jaunt to some parks that I didn't have too much success with, like Toverland, and then hopefully to get on the 4 credits that I missed from that trip that I had recently there in the fall season, which was an experience on itself. We'll also try to get to F-telling again, which has been an amazing time the one time that I was there, but I've not been there in the warmer periods to get some of the other rides that I keep missing, especially Joris and Drac, which for some reason is always closed whenever I or look to visit, let alone when I was there. Then we will do Movie Park Germany, and finally, possibly Wallaby Holland again, if I strike up the nerve to visit it. In relation to the sequel to the film that is on the channel that has disappeared, as Be a Man has referenced, unfortunately, there will not be a sequel per se. As I am working on a new project in that area, I am working on a new feature, but it is a feature that sort of closes the loop on former work that I did in another feature film that I have not had on YouTube for some time, but I am actually working on putting it back up and having it available for people to watch because I'm definitely proud of the work and definitely proud of the film from last year. And watch this space. You never know. I never really can be committed to any thing that I say sometimes in regards to plans in that sort. Sometimes when the idea hits or circumstances go a different way, you might see a conclusion or continuation of that story because it's certainly we're still waiting on some news on that front. I will say it's not dead in the water, and my trip to LA also. I have a small bit of time allotted to hopefully promoting it a little bit more because, yeah, unfortunately, when you create narratives like that, it's hard to find the audience for it. However, and which I maybe should some wrap up this video on because it's probably the most exciting announcement and really what coalesces my life outside previously to the channel and everything. I do have a project, a narrative project based on the enthusiast experience that I've been kicking around for some time. And I believe at the end of this year, I believe we will be shooting it. So, again, not to overuse the phrase watch this space, but as far as any involvement in the project overall, I will probably be looking for anyone that is interested in something like that because I'm going to base it on keep it in the world of what we do and not put it in the world of professional film and television production, which can kind of make things inauthentic. So the only way to really say it is think of more reality television style, but more in a documentary sense than it's not like an Amazing Race type of doc in reality. We're dealing with a narrative, specific show with some unique characters, and the overarching focus and location of this project is a theme park, and that's the focus. And I'm not trying to give anything away quite yet because there's obviously a big thing that happens as far as what it's all about. That with it being developed still, it's too early to say anything. So I wasn't meant to say anything yet, and I have. So yeah, watch this space again. Yeah, something might be coming up that we definitely can enjoy specifically for this channel. It's completely unique in the world of YouTube enthusiast content. At least I hope it will be if we manage to get it off the floor. All right. I definitely should probably wrap this up. I was thinking 45 minutes and we're getting over an hour here. But if anybody has any other questions, I will probably, if I can, quickly hit it. But I think that's a good spot to, sign off. Thank you so much, guys. Number one, for all of your time and viewership, your shares, your likes, your appreciation, your comments. Um, Sometimes I just feel like I'm repeating myself when I comment back, so don't feel insulted if I'm not saying not getting to your comments fast and quick and that kind of thing. Yes, JB, I will be doing a Crystal Beach video, and that will be a reprofiles style video. That's another big one because I have a very distinct narrative approach that I want to. That's a big one. That's a big video I want done right, and I think I even need an actor uh, specifically of a certain age, like a senior, to be in that video itself when I shoot it. But I'm gonna shoot that this summer. But yeah, there's some narrative content that I have to shoot in relation to that video in order for it to get off the ground too. It's a good reminder because it is in the arsenal. It is actually planned of the 12 for this coming year. Yeah, thank you again, guys. Looking forward to sharing a lot of great, interesting content across the board. Maybe a little bit less videos this year than, say, this past year, which has been kind of crazy. But I appreciate it. We're over 2,000 subscribers now, so and closing in on 2,500. So it's great. I again don't really advertise this channel all that much, and the complete branding of it is about to change. Um, as you're probably noticing on some of the videos now, by the point of our anniversary, which is this coming, it's basically late April. You should see the channel content completely rebranded. Um, I don't do these lives often, but on that note, JB, I'm trying to really just keep the lives to once every 1,000 subscribers at this point, if that's fair. So the next one, I don't think I'll be with you guys until we hit that benchmark. So, who knows if we do? Hopefully we do. But yeah, I do feel that unless you guys say otherwise, the lives have not been as popular as, say, some of the other content, and that's why there's not as many of them. And all the old ones from the great period of our lockdown and etc. are no longer available on the channel. Uh, I may put those back up. Uh, I don't really want to do a podcast, but at the same time, I've been floating around the idea of, do you move the news into the lives and then create a sort of podcast experience? Comment below if you have any input on these things, because I've definitely been thinking about it for the future of the channel. Um, but some news updates get a fair amount of views and some discussion going, and some news updates just don't get any views and discussion going. So investing the time into those particular videos, and those ones take a fair bit of time if there's a lot to talk about and put together as far as the production level of the video. Um, and just reading more comments here. And yeah. So we'll see. I have a feeling it will be very soon that we will be chatting live once again. Um, but at that point, I think we should wrap this up. Again, thank you guys. We'll see you very soon in the new videos. And very, very soon, there's a Wallaby Belgium video still to come as well. So, yeah, it's the last in the series from Europe to go up. And then we should see you in Vegas shortly thereafter, and all the other videos between that. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace out. See you in the next one. all those other things they say. All right. Take care.